One, two. All right. Hey, Gary, welcome to the show, Contractors Mastermind 2020. My name is Gino. I'm going to be your host today. Funny enough, we do know each other, so glad to have you on the show, man.
Glad to be with you.
So first thing we're going to dive into here is just talking about, introducing yourself, your business, or, what you do for a living, what you specialize in, how long you've been doing it, kind of just telling us a little bit about your story and go from there.
My name is Gary Bergin. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota originally. I moved south to Atlanta in 1984 and made a move with a moving company in 1990 to Nashville, and my wife and I have lived here ever since. I have been on the sales side and some management in moving and relocation since I took my first job in the fall of 1984 in Atlanta for a company in this industry, which it's hard to believe will soon be 36 years ago.
Man, it's awesome. It's awesome. So moving and relocation, let me ask you this. So when you first got started compared to where you're at today, what been some key challenges you've seen, getting started in the business, getting up and rolling, and the sales side of it? What were the toughest points for you when you're kind of growing that? Because I know it's kind of a business for yourself, but you work under someone, which is really cool model of what y'all got there. But how's that journey been so far?
It's been a good journey, first and foremost. One of the things I've always enjoyed about the business is that we don't create demand. You don't move for the sake of a good sales presentation or a great price. You have to move. And for that reason, I've always been able to look at it that a person needs to move. It's a case of how they're going to do it. And if I conduct myself with integrity and provide a good service at a fair price, it makes sense to help. Initially, the first part of my journey was spent in doing a lot of residential, one-time moving referral business for individuals, and that evolved over time to doing corporate relocation sales, moving people for companies and corporations, and also have learned a lot about and do a lot of office and industrial moving as well. That's kind of specialized. So the initial aspect, I think, of any sales effort is the persistence that it requires to learn what you need to know, and the persistence that is required to attain a level of success. It just takes time and effort, and there's no magic formula. You need to, whether it was 1980, late 1980s when I was getting started, or now, you need to contact and be in touch with people who do the business, need the business that we offer, need the service we offer.
Right. What do you notice with residential versus corporate or commercial accounts? Do you find what has been your number one source of business in that regard? Is it all based
first
on
of all, there's one major distinction, and that is when somebody's moving with their company, it's not coming out of their money's not coming out of their pocket.
Right.
There's kind of two ways to look at dollars. One is when you're billing a company, and one is when an individual's paying for it with a credit card or out of their checking account. And so it comes to kind of different sets of dynamics. On the residential household side, it's a lot more hands-on. I'm more involved with people than I am on the corporate side, where once I establish it, it might take me 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years to establish a corporate relationship.
Right.
Then that business is handled day to day by customer service people that are colleagues of mine. On the office moving side, it's much more establishing relationships with a network of people who are involved one way or another with commercial properties. Gotcha. And then being there on a one-time basis to be able to be a service to companies when they move.
Right. Do you see a lot of the business coming from strictly referrals, or do you see a back and forth? Does residential, I would in terms of residential, do you get a lot of leads from online and marketing and other sources, or does most of that come through referrals? Or, I know some of like the corporate accounts can come through references and business done in the past, but how do you see the kind of marketing sources of where most of these things are coming from? And also kind of diving into like, what's that look like in business wise in 2020 too?
First of all, in Nashville, surprisingly, locally, the residential real estate market has held up pretty well.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen really any decline. In fact, I've been very busy on that side of things.
Awesome.
I about 70%, 80% of the business that I do on the residential side for individuals is referral business, nurturing relationships with realtors, lenders, just anybody who touches someone when they're in the course of selling a home and moving to a new location. On the corporate side, a lot of our business now goes through third-party relocation companies that go in and literally take on all the responsibilities and functions of a relocation department for corporations and organizations. We in turn move people for them.
Right.
And so that's been a big change in the business in the last 25 years. And that's evolved so that most of the business I do on the corporate side is in partnership with a relocation company. And I have relationships with relocation companies in Dallas and Atlanta, here in Nashville and in Cincinnati. So on the how that changes next year, the part of our business that's been most affected by the coronavirus is our corporate household relocation business. Companies are not moving people now if they don't have to. If they can wait, they're waiting. How long that will continue, we don't know. We traditionally have a really busy summer because we're quite seasonal, and that's part of our business. By summer, perhaps we see something that looks like a normal summer. Perhaps we don't. Perhaps that business is going to be off for quite some time. But right now, that business is off by more than half.
Right. Okay. So you're talking about COVID and some of like most of the business you mentioned, like residential wise, like things aren't really changing because it kind of goes in terms of the real estate market too as well, which is really awesome. What are some, have there been any like specific things that have changed in the way things go about business wise because of COVID? Or, do you think it's going to affect anything in the future, or is it just kind of a season for the business for you guys right now?
It will have some impact. I think it'll accelerate some of the things we were doing anyway. Instead of as much personal contact one-on-one prior to the move, we're doing a lot more video surveying and avoiding that in-home contact. But when people move, we got to have people in the house. So there's no way not to do that. Yeah. So at that point, we're doing the basics to make sure that our people are healthy and well, and that they have gloves and that they have masks, and that we do all the things that we can do to minimize the risk. I do think that overall we'll see our business affected some long term by this, 2, 3, 4 years out. There's already a movement toward a lot more people working at home in the corporate world. That will probably be that much more accelerated now. Yeah. And which might affect our business because you don't need to move as many people when they can work from anywhere.
Right. Well, it is cool that I've talked to roofers, I've talked to other contractors, some specific industries that are, more on this essential side aren't able to necessarily do like virtual estimates or virtual walkthroughs with their clients and give somewhat of an estimation ballpark of what that would look like. Do you think that's has that been something you guys have done in the past?
Yeah, we have the software.
Have
the software to do that and a process to do it.
Right.
Being a little bit old school, I've always got to kind of push myself to make sure I accept new technology that comes to pass and be available. Certainly I'm most comfortable if I can visit someone and see their home. Right. And many people, 3 out of 4 people now still want that if possible. And again, I wear a mask and I wear gloves and have been very responsible in that regard. But we're going to see more and more of things like that done virtually. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And our business, in, like I say, in many respects, will continue to, I think, be affected by this for the long term. You know, as I say, we won't go back to what was. We'll go back to a new normal.
Yeah. This is a little open-ended of a question. It really could go anywhere, but if you could go back 6 months or a year and know that this time would happen right now, is there anything you would have done differently, or is there even anything you could have done to prep in advance for something like this, or is it just kind of obsolete? It sounds obsolete for your business for the most part. Some companies are like, man, I would have done a whole lot more stuff online, kind of prepping up for this time. It is cool that y'all done virtual estimates.
Yeah,
Right?
I think we've been moving in that direction. In terms of business development, I would have put that much more focus on non-traditional business. One of the things that we'll need to do if some of our core business goes away on a midterm or long-term basis is replace those revenues, both personally to make a living, because my job is in part largely commission-based, and also from a company standpoint and an industry standpoint. We've got trucks, we've got people, they can move houses, they can move offices, but those same resources can do a lot of other things too. So maybe we would have been a little bit more mindful of what's out there, whether it's a truckload kind of business, a commodities, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, this time, but definitely gets you thinking, like, how are you going to position yourself to not just safety, but to like continue to take market share with as even like major events like this happen, you know, no one expects.
And find new market. If your
right.
core market is going to decline, you got to develop business elsewhere.
Yeah.
That would be a challenge for our industry. It's going to be a challenge for a lot of people. And it's going to be easier for some than others.
Yeah.
If you have a restaurant, you serve food, there's not a lot of other things you can do with that. So you got to find, so that's where it'll be tough. We've got some things we can do that are not right in our core line of business that we can develop further.
Fast forward, do you know, I know we kind of talked about prepping and leading up to that, but are there any specific benchmarks goal-wise that you have for the next upcoming 6 months to a year, maybe even longer, of what you see for your business, or like as the business as a whole?
Well, this had come at a time for me when I was 4 years into an effort with a new company. So I was kind of reaching a kind of a fun point anyway. I established a nice level of business, and was in a position now to really go out and kind of look at that next tier of business, and where those new opportunities arise. So I will continue to do that in the next year, and then the other thing I'll do is think about, as much as I can, what other areas of revenue I might be able to develop, whether it's more storage services, whether it's services that our people can do and that our equipment can help perform, and that it can generate dollars for me and also revenue for our company and keep our people working. Yeah. You know, we are a service business, so a big part of our business is still about the people who represent us every day.
That's awesome. Sorry, I just, some of what you're saying, it's like there's not much to even add on top of it. So it's appreciate it. Man, this is my favorite one. Nice and easy. We're gonna wrap it up here. Any advice, thoughts, comments, rude remarks you got for anybody who may be listening, who may be in a similar boat, who may not be where you're at, wherever the case may be, or in an industry, you know, any ballpark thoughts, you know? Some people like that because they can get a little vulgar on here, but
yeah, I have a few thoughts. One is that sales isn't for everybody, but if it is for you, it can be a very gratifying and fun way to make a living. Yeah. And I've been blessed to find something that I do enjoy and that I think contributes genuine value to people's lives. And if you can find something that you feel that way about, then I think it can be a really good thing. The second piece of advice is it'll be harder than you think it is. And so you have to push through It's not a job where you go and do 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day and you're paid X and you do what you're supposed to do and it's all good. There's an element of not knowing with what we do and what I do. I can work 5 years on a piece of business and for some reason, something that it's totally not my fault, not be able to do the business. By the same token, I can call in a company sometimes 3 or 4 months and click, something happens and I get fortunate. So it will be harder. And but once you are established, and also the basics, you're as good as your word, to always maintain your integrity. And I'm a person who cares about other people, not to be afraid to show that. People want to feel that. And because people still do business with people. My company is important and I work for a great company, committed to all the right things. And yet people want to know that the person they're doing business with is someone they can trust.
Right. Well, Gary, thank you for coming on the show, man. I always love talking to you, for real.
You got it. And everyone keep the faith through this time. It's hard for everybody, but there's no doubt. It's harder for some people than others because some people are blessed to not be as affected. They're at different stages of their lives where they have more resources and assets. So my heart's out to everybody during this time. And I do think that in months, we will get to a place where we return to some normalcy, but it's going to require some patience and some diligence and that we respect each other and be kind to each other. And that's a good place to leave it. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Gino, always. And
thank you.
Wish you the best going forward, meeting and a lot of fun people in doing this.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap up the call here. Just give me 1 second.